Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It's great to see a large group of you in attendance. We appreciate you being here. Today, we are going to discuss improving utility contractor safety management. And just a couple quick reminders before we get started. This webinar is being recorded, so a link to the recast will be emailed to you by Friday. Feel free to share that with your team and colleagues, and we'll also have some helpful resources that you can implement in your organizations as well. If you have any questions during the webinar, please feel free to type those into the chat at any point in time. And then once the presentation is complete, we will start our Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And then we also invite you to unmute your mics if you want to have some live conversation. That would be great as well. With that, I will pass it to our presenter.
All right, thanks, Hannah, and welcome everyone. I'm Jordan Hollingsworth. I'm the Director of Safety Operations here at SMG, and I have nearly 20 years of utility safety experience. Just to give you a quick background, I started off in the utility field back in, I want to say 2022. I was going to college. Didn't really know what major to choose at that time. So I worked for a small co-op in Southern Indiana, and I was pursuing a career as a lineman. I worked on a brush truck, I worked on a line truck, and then I worked on a service truck. Then I found safety. I found a passion for safety and a passion for the utility industry. And then since then, I've worked with SMG since 2008. I've supported utility clients across the country, and I've worked with numerous utility contractors. And if you don't have your computer on mute, please mute. And
I think they
welcome
muted
to
it. Never mind.
Can you hear me all right, Hannah? I have some invitees hopping in and out.
Yes, you sound good.
All
Yes.
right. I wanted to say, yeah, welcome to everyone. It's good to see a bunch of friendly faces on here. I've worked with several of you all throughout the years, and with that, let's dive into the presentation. Before we get into talking about contractor safety management, which this is over improving utility contractor safety, but I believe you can take these principles, you can apply them to any industry. I have a background in heavy construction, building construction, commercial construction, but for the past 15, 16 years, I've been dedicated to utilities. So at SMG, we like to start off every meeting with a safety moment. So this is the culture we push internally. This is also the culture we promote with our clients, and it helps set the tone. Even though this is a safety meeting, a safety moment helps set the tone and keep safety top of mind for all meetings. So whether it's an operations meeting or a weekly safety meeting, I mean, you should get in the routine with starting off as a safety culture moment. We also call them service quality moments. But for the safety moment today, I want to talk about airline culture. So being in the utility industry, most of us on this webinar, we probably fly and travel a lot. I know I do. I have associates in 11 states and feel like I'm on the road constantly. I mean, earlier this month, I was on the road 2 weeks in a row. So staying in hotels, flying, I mean, renting cars, etc. But one of the things I've noticed is I observe culture. So culture of the airlines that I'm flying with, culture of the employees at the hotels I'm staying, and all that is driven down from corporate. So this safety moment is over airline culture. And I was reflecting back over these past couple of weeks of travel. And earlier this month, I was in Dallas, Texas. So I traveled from Indianapolis to Dallas. Then I flew back from Dallas to Indy. Right. So I was there attending a utility contractor meeting. with several contractors and other utility representatives. And every flight I was on, you can watch the flight attendant go through the motions with the in-flight announcements. So the captain has turned on their seatbelt. There are several emergency exits on the aircraft. The oxygen mask will automatically appear in front of you. We remind you that this is a non-smoking flight. Like I said, I mean, they go through the motions. They work 12-hour shifts. They have numerous flights a day. So maybe the first one in that morning when they're pepped up on coffee, they might have a passion for that emergency briefing. But towards the end of the day, not so much. They're going through the motions. And that's their culture, right? So let me land this plane for us. Let's talk about the utility industry. So one of the most critical safety tools in our industry is the job briefing process. So you may refer to this as a pre-job brief, a JHA, a THA, JSA, whatever you want to call it. So within the utility industry, the job briefing, it's always been a requirement per OSHA. However, I have observed, over the past 15 years, how the job briefing process gets morphed into a secondary process, which may be a THA or a safe work plan or a daily task hazard analysis, and they become formed into one process. So you may work for one owner, one utility, they have a specific requirement. And then you also have your OSHA requirement of the job briefing, which you more than likely have a procedure internally. But then you go to work for utilities or other clients, and then those two processes become one. The job briefing is a separate process. That's a standalone process prescribed by OSHA. And it goes back to the Kona learning. That's hearing, speaking, listening, having that meaningful conversation, engaging with crew members. And I can relate the job briefing process to, say, in-flight announcements on an airline, right? The foreman, airline industry, flight attendant or captain, they give an overview, right? That's that daily work plan. Also on job sites, the foreman reminds the crew of emergency procedures. Then the foreman gives an overview of safety protocols for the scope of work. So when you think about that, if you step back on one of your job sites and observe this job briefing process, is the foreman going through the motion, or are they having that thorough, formal job briefing, engaging crew members, or is it just checking a box? Do they really mean what they say? Or are they doing it because they have to? Or even better than that, are they engaging the crew in a vocal manner? How many's been out there and seen a job briefing written down at the hotel from the night before or in a pickup truck, and then you get to the job site and you take that job briefing and you just pass it around? No conversation. Just, here, read this, sign it. That's not engagement, right? Job briefings are important. So studies out there, I referenced the Kona learning. Studies say that you retain at least 20% of what you hear. 20% of what you hear. So the foreman having that vocal conversation. Then studies also say that 70% of what we say, such as participating in a discussion, you retain. So foreman briefing, right? Foreman briefing, engaging crew, having conversation back. So seeing, hearing, Kona learning, that's all retainment, right? That's culture. So if we have effective job briefings, and a lot of them, we're going to change behavior, right? It's not going through the motions. It's not checking that box. At SMG, we believe that all employees and contractors we work with are a part of our extended family. We're all after that mutual goal of no one gets hurt, zero harm, returning home in better condition than you were at work, And the job briefing is only one of those tools that will get us there. So what is our culture? Just reflect. I mean, any of that resonate with anyone on here? I mean, think about your culture. Are we going through the motions, or are we having those meaningful conversations? I mean, are we doing the little things right? So our pre-job briefings, our job briefings, our THAs. So that's my safety moment to kick us off. I'm going to talk a lot about culture. So I felt like that was a good one. And then, like I said, I travel a lot. I know everybody on here travels a lot. So with that, does anyone have anything to add to the safety moment? All right. If not, let's dive into this. Right. So today we're going to talk about improving contractor safety management within the utility industry. As I mentioned, this can be applied to any industry I've worked within. Like I said, large construction projects. If you work for a contractor with subsidiary companies, you can manage your subcontractor safety here. But these are just some approaches that I've seen best practices work throughout the years. And the topics I'm going to dive in here today, first one being boots on the ground. So getting safety professionals out in the field, not only safety professionals, but that operational support. So right levels of leadership, getting out into the field. And we're also going to discuss incident management, some best practices, proactive measures, so proper planning, and then how to pull this program into, say, a systematic approach. So boots on the ground. So this is all about a partnership. So when we talk about safety are partners with everyone. I mean, safety professionals have a very difficult job out there. They speak from the executives leading organizations to the people, I mean, using wrenches and hammers to perform the task. So this first piece is about boots on the ground. It's getting eyes in the field, verifying processes and procedures are being performed correctly, verifying that we're following regulations and standard operating procedures. And that takes not only field safety advisors, but as I mentioned, the right layers of leadership getting out there. So superintendents, project managers, getting that support. So let's talk about boots on the ground and some of the struggles that I've personally experienced within the utility industry, and I'm sure most of you have as well if you've been around for a while. But the utility industry, very niche, right? As I mentioned, I've been around the utility industry for nearly 20 years, and last 15 years solely dedicated on utilities. I can tell you 15 years ago, most of the safety professionals out there, they were former linemen. So they came from the trade, and within their organization or within their utility, there became safety positions, and then they made the transition from trade to safety professional. I've also observed just the growth throughout the years, and with that, there weren't very many safety professionals in the field. So when we first started coming around, visiting contractor crews and utility crews, there was a coach first cop mentality out there. So at SMG, we always promote the partnership, the coaching approach. We were out there to assist, but as I mentioned, just from an industry perspective, there weren't a lot of safety professionals out there. So you were viewed by the field as this guy's coming out, he's only pointing out bad stuff, and he's the cop, he's the enforcer. And I mean, that's not the case. We're coaches, safety professionals are coaches. If you're in operations and you're performing an observation, you're a coach, you're not a cop. But I've seen that, I've experienced it. And then on that same note, you have people out in the field, you have boots on the ground, you're performing, say, inspections, the naughty word, right? Which we like to refer to as observations or coaching opportunities. And then what is the purpose behind those? So performing observations and how to perform those quality observations to make them meaningful. In the utility industry, I've also noticed a lot of inconsistencies. So working with utilities across a large geographical footprint, you have inconsistencies, say, from operating company to operating company, or from east to west, or from region to region. Same with contractors. Contractors, you may have multiple divisions. You could have a line division, a substation division, an electrical mechanical division, and they all operate in silos, which creates inconsistencies. I've also seen companies with different or with regional offices. And so when you have regional offices, you have different leadership in play. And with different leadership, there is a different culture there, right? So several inconsistencies. I've also observed throughout the years contractor safety program requirements versus internal requirements for, say, a company's safety program. So you might have different policies and procedures that supersede or exceed other policies and procedures, depending on if you're following a client obligation or if you're following your internal safety program. And then just an industry stigma. I'm sure most of you've seen the famous website Line Junk. There's various other social media forms out there, but I mean, there's an industry stigma around safety. It's not always promoted under the best light. And I used to work with an executive in charge of large capital construction, and he used to like to make reference that the utility world, I mean, this is a macho business, right? So think about that. You have someone preaching, hey, this is the macho business, right? Then you're going out, you're going to talk about safety glasses and things like that. It goes along with that industry stigma. And then now, and I'm sure you're all seeing it as well, is just the crazy industry growth. So we are really in the renaissance period for electrical infrastructure. So I've seen it. I'm sure you've all seen the numbers utilities are investing throughout, say, 2040. But there's going to be a substantial growth in the transmission world. And then if you want to think about all the data centers that are being built across the country, I mean, you have line work that goes into that. You have substation work. You have renewables and generation. You're building those microgrids. So you're seeing that volume of work just substantially increase. And it's going to get crazy here in 2028 moving forward. And what plays into that as well is the labor in the workforce. So is there enough labor out there to perform all the work needed to be completed? So I was on a call within the last couple of months, and we were forecasting capital projects, and the question was raised, where is all this labor going to come from? You know, are we going to have to get labor from overseas? And that plays into your workforce, right? I mean, a transient workforce, new employees, new onboarding. So that creates new challenges or new struggles within the utility industry. All right, so getting back to that boots on the ground. So that's first and foremost, most important piece of any contractor safety program. You have to have eyes in the field, whether these are safety professionals or whether you dedicate enough operations folks to be able to get out in the field, create a partnership with the crew, create a partnership with your clients, build those relationships. So I always tell my group that building relationships is the most important role in safety. So if you build those relationships, it makes everything easier. And you got to constantly remind your crews out there that if we're performing observations or if we're out here talking about safety, we're just the extra eyes in the field. And if you have safety professionals, those safety professionals need to be sharing that message with their crews. We're an extension of operations. We're here to assist with program development. We're here to help facilitate a meeting if necessary. We're here to share best practices. We're a coach, not a cop. And it's all about building that respect, that trust, that transparency, and ultimately leading to field level engagement. So that's your boots on the ground piece. So when we have boots on the ground, being safety professionals or operational folks, you got to have meaningful conversations. So how often have you seen someone come out, they have to perform an observation just because it's a requirement for their annual bonus or they have a KPI, and they just go through the motions. They're not having meaningful conversations. They're just going through the checklist. So we have to have meaningful conversations. I like to remind associates that if you want to have a meaningful conversation, if you want to have a meaningful visit, put your cell phone in your glove box. Don't take your cell phone on the job site. It's a distraction. Go out, have those conversations, make them meaningful. Talk about stuff that's relevant. I mean, just don't go through your checklist. I mean, talk about industry related stuff. Talk about the energy wheel. Talk about SIF. Talk about the terminology around SIF. Like, I mean, does everyone know what a direct control stands for? Or are we using that vocabulary? I mean, make that conversation meaningful. And then you also have to have frequent visits. So there was a industry stigma a handful of years ago that everyone talked about how within the utility industry, if we sent crews on storm work is actually safer than routine work. Well, everyone that was saying that never worked storm work. I mean, I personally worked storm work from the hand side on a line truck, and I've worked storm work on the safety side. And there's a lot of stuff that goes out the window. But I think one of the differences between storm work and normally scheduled work is the leadership engagement in the field. So talking about that frequency of visits. So when you go on storm, you have everybody in the field. I mean, various supervisors, different levels of the organization. You're buying pizzas, you're buying subs, you're having those safety conversations, you're going about your work slower. There's a difference there, but it's all about frequency of visits. So shifting gears from boots on the ground to employee engagement. So employee engagement requires staffing commitments. So whether you're in a utility, a general contractor, a utility contractor, a developer for a data center, safety requires commitments. So I've worked with numerous companies out there that they've tried to either grow too quick or they've chewed off more projects than they can handle. And safety is a result of culture, right? Well, when you don't have the staffing in place, you experience drift. You can't have frequencies of visits. You have to focus your effort and energy on too many things at once. And safety ultimately sometimes goes out the window. So this requires staffing commitments, not only on the operations side, but you also have to have staffing commitments on the safety side. So you just can't throw safety people at everything. You still have to bulk up your operations side to be able to manage and then utilize safety as an extension to operations. So when we have these staffing commitments in place, having those frequency of visits, that's when you're having those safety conversations. You have to have the right safety conversations. When you're performing observations, they have to be focused. They can't be just check the box, pencil whip, here's a black and white piece of paper, fill this out. They have to be focused. They have to be meaningful. And then when we're having these safety conversations and we're performing these focused observations, you got to be able to record, track, and analyze. So I want to say mostly everyone I come across nowadays, whether a utility contractor, they have some sort of software or data tracking system where they're able to track and analyze. Well, 15 years ago, that didn't exist, right? There might have been one or two safety programs out there, and you had to extract the data and manipulate it yourself. And the majority of companies, they were using a piece of paper and they would turn it into their supervisor or the safety office at the end of the week. There was no way to record, track, analyze. Focused observations. So those meaningful safety conversations. Fire extinguishers, PPE, hand and power tools. Who's seen it? Everyone on here can go out to any job site and you can find a coaching opportunity with a fire extinguisher, somebody not wearing side shields or safety glasses, maybe gloves, or might find something wrong with a hand and power tool. So angle grinder missing a guard, power tool missing a ground plug, power tool cord with a nick. I mean, you've all seen it. However, I know that's the low hanging fruit and the little stuff that we can perform coaching opportunities on, or if we're being challenged to find opportunities for improvement, I mean, that's something easy to write down, right? But is it meaningful? Sometimes, not always. Are we looking at the right stuff, or are we looking at the wrong stuff when we have these job site observations? Some of the recommendations. I'll tell you to spend time on personnel qualifications. So do we have the right leaders leading our projects? Do they have the right training? Right? So how many foremen do you see on job sites that have formal supervisor training or formal leadership training? And it's getting better, but I would say not always. I mean, I can say that the growth of the industry, I mean, you see new employees go from first year apprentice to second year general foreman, and it's not uncommon. It's the nature of the beast. So focus on personnel qualifications. So not only the leadership aspect, but do they have the right training to be able to perform their task? And it's not up to, say, the union or their previous employer. It's up to the current employer to verify these personnel qualifications. Focus on physical environment. So specifically in the utility world, being that it's not four-wall construction, the environment is huge. The physical environment is huge. So yeah, within a substation or outside a data center, you might have a contained area. You might be fenced in. But then again, in your physical environment, you have electricity. You have induced voltage. You have stuff buried under the ground that you have to worry about. And then you want to go out to a line project. You could be building a 70-mile line, 765 line, and have all kinds of different environmental aspects. So hills, mountains, wildlife, traffic control is a big one. So you have all these outside influence that play into it. I touched on some of the supervisory qualifications, but look into the responsibility. Are you putting supervisors on a job where their sole task is the supervise, or are they working foremen? And most often, if you have a working foreman, the work they're performing interferes with their supervisory responsibilities. So that needs to be a focus. And then activity planning. Later on, I'm going to talk about proper planning and some data behind that, but activity planning, that needs to be a focus. And then all focused observations need to be geared towards high energy and the energy wheel. So one of the quotes I latched onto, a former colleague, he's retired now. He's a professional engineer, substantial experience in construction and contractor safety management. But he made a comment to me that really stuck. He mentioned there are very few leading indicators that predict safety performance. There are very few leading indicators that predict safety performance. So let's pause, go back. I began this slide talking about fire extinguishers, PPE, hand and power tools, etc. Those are all leading indicators, right? If we document coaching opportunities, are they going to predict safety performance? I can relate those things to culture, but can you relate those to, say, high energy or that overall safety performance? Maybe, maybe not, right? And then all others, so all other leading indicators are influenced by those leading indicators. So meaning, so low-hanging fruit, yes, might not be high energy, but they are leading indicators. They are a reflection of culture, right? And those could be leading indicators that influence other leading indicators that may predict the safety performance of a job site, of a company, of a utility. All right, here's a fact. This is real data. So everything I tell you here today, I mean, I've lived firsthand, I've experienced, like I mentioned, I've worked with several of you on this call, so you could probably relate. But here's a comparison of safety conversations. So you can say these are inspections, these are job site observations. I like to say safety conversation, right? So we have safety professionals out in the field performing conversations with the crew, and they're documenting it. So back in 2012, this one customer, this one client, they had a contractor recordable rate of a 2.57. I would fall out of this chair right now if I saw a recordable rate of a 2.57. But that was reality, 2012. Also, same year, 2012, safety professionals for this customer performed 660 job site safety conversations or inspections or observations. So 2.57, 660 observations. Well, you look at 2025, and from 2012 present, you see an increase year over year of safety inspections or safety conversations. And also you see year over year, that recordable rate is dropping. So correlation there, more safety conversations you're performing, more job site inspections, it's ultimately going to result in a safer work site. So 2025, 10,381 observations, recordable rate, down from a 2.57 to 0.73. Another example, the more people having these safety conversations results in a safer work site. So if you ever want to make a case for safety, if you ever need to beef up your staff internally, well, here's your data. So same client had 11 safety professionals in 2012 with that recordable rate of a 2.57. 11 safety professionals. 2025, same company. 60 safety professionals in the field having those safety conversations, and a recordable rate down to a 0.7. So the data shows, yeah, more safety conversations, the more safety professionals in the field, that's ultimately going to result in a safer work site or safer organization. All right, so getting back into the elements of the contractor safety program. So as I mentioned, it's a coaching approach. It's not punitive, it's a partnership. So tracking data, performing those focus observations, having those safety conversations, you have to make data-driven decisions. So nowadays, everybody has software. Everybody is trying to manipulate data. We're utilizing new dashboard tools such as Power BI, Domo. A lot of people, they're pretty tech savvy with Excel behind the scenes. So the data is beginning to exist, right? But you have to make data-driven decisions. So at your organization, at your company, you have to encourage a culture of finding bad. So I don't like the terminology bad. I like opportunity for improvement, or I like, say, lesson learned or coaching opportunity. But these are bad things. These are unsafe observations, or these are at-risk conditions. So if we challenge the norm and we're telling our observers, go out, find bad things, that's perfectly normal. We have to find bad things. We have to track those. We have to analyze those. Everything must be tracked. So when you have that information, what are you doing with it? I mean, are we talking about it in a weekly foreman's meeting, or are we tracking long-term, or are we looking at from a quarterly perspective, going after new initiatives for the following quarter, or are we looking at it year over year and know that, say, the months of March and April are our bad months, followed by September, looking at those leading indicators, how do we get focused and get in front of these leading indicators to be able to stop the lagging indicators from taking place? So you can either take a blame and punishment approach, or you can learn and improve. And that's why we track, analyze, improve, right? Continuous improvement. So when we're encouraging associates, employees to get out there, find bad things. So find solutions when those bad things are found. So if we're finding bad things, let's fix it right there. Let's solve it. Let's have a safety conversation. Let's raise this up. Let's share it with other projects. So the field, so these are your project managers, your superintendents, your general foreman, your foreman. They have to be actively involved in that problem solving. So if it's a safety professional out there finding bad things, they have to be actively engaged with those operation folks. And then those operation folks, they're the ones that need to be involved in problem solving. The safety professional is an extension to operations. And then you have to evolve. So if you're still using the pen and paper method, that's great, but how are you tracking it? How are you analyzing it? So you're going to have to evolve at some point. Observations and actions influence the future workplace methods and behaviors. So you're out there performing observations, which are leading indicators. Those leading indicators predict or influence other leading indicators that may or may not create a safe or unsafe work site. So observations, they directly influence future work. All right, we talked about boots on the ground, that process verification, getting folks out in the field, performing observations, having those meaningful conversations, tracking, analyzing data that go along with those observations. So let's shift and talk about incident management. How do we establish a reporting culture? I want you to think about this. So a reporting culture is a safe culture. Think about that. So if you have crews out in the field and they are reporting on themselves, do you think that's a pretty safe crew, or do you think that's a pretty safe job site? I would say so. I worry about the job sites or the projects or the clients or customers you hear nothing from. If you hear nothing out of job sites, I find that eerie. That's when you need to send somebody out into the field, to that project, to that job site, to that location. Figure out what's going on. You're not hearing anything from the crew. They're not reporting on themselves. So there's more to the story there. I worked with another utility executive over construction, and he used to always mention when talking about safety, are we good or are we lucky? Do we have that reporting culture? Or are we having near misses? And that's when we hear about safety. And does that mean, are we good or are we lucky? So think about that. A reporting culture is a safe culture. Resources for the field. So making those data-driven decisions. So you're going to have a method where you track and trend your leading indicators and also those lagging indicators. So leading indicators, observations, near misses, good catches, incidents with capacity, leading indicators, your training matrix. Then on the lagging indicator side, those are your injuries. So what are we seeing from a leading perspective? What are we seeing from a lagging perspective? How do those correlate? How do we pull all that information together? How do we dissect it? How do we take this information and make data-driven decisions and provide the appropriate resources to management that's leading our job sites, leading our crews, and then also getting that information out to the field to make a meaningful impact or make it sticky with the crew. So establishing that reporting culture, it's got to take a management commitment. So from the management leadership side, you have to promote, you have to encourage a near miss and good catch process, system, methodology. So it goes back to a reporting culture is a safe culture. Well, a lot of organizations look at near misses as bad, right? If you report on yourself, you have a near miss, stuff almost hit the fan, and now everyone's getting in trouble. We have repercussions from turning in a near miss, and that shouldn't happen, right? We should promote reporting. We should promote reporting of near misses and good catches. And that's that leading indicator side from, say, an incident management piece. And then you also, from an industry perspective, you have to create a way of tracking SIF injuries or SIF events. So those are your potential serious injuries and or fatalities, and then your actual SIF events. So diving back into those near misses and good catches, looking at those near misses and good catches from a SIF perspective. Was that near miss a PSIF? Did that near miss have a direct control built into place? Did that good catch have high energy? Did that good catch stop high energy from being released? So it prevented it from being a PSIF. All of those tools, bringing in leading indicators, lagging indicators, and tying them all together. So another real life example. I wish I would have coined the phrase and trademarked good catch 20 years ago. We started saying good catch from an SMG perspective, 2014, 2015, worked with a utility client. They implemented a good catch program in 2016. However, it took 2 years, went from 2016 to 2018 for this client to have one contractor good catch submitted. One, took 2 full years. So you can see 2012 through 2016, 0 good catches. Now you've established a reporting culture is a safe culture, and you look at near misses versus good catches. So you did see when good catches upticked, you also had near misses upticking. It's because you established that reporting culture, and we had companies reporting everything, which is great. They're telling on themselves, right? They're allowing themselves and allowing the program to improve, mature, get better. So throughout 2019 to 2021, you see that uptick, and then the culture shifts. So you see the substantial increase in good catch reporting and the substantial decrease in near miss events. It's because you have companies out there catching near miss events prior to those happening. So the good catches, catching events before high energy is released and before those events turn into a near miss. So looking at the data from 2025, over 13,000 good catches submitted and only 165 near misses. That's success right there. That's establishing a reporting culture as a safe culture. Meaningful conversations and applying those meaningful conversations to the utility industry. So SIF, I mean, that's been a hot topic for the last 5-6 years. It's going to continue to be a hot topic. It's going to continue to evolve. EEI, they updated their SIF model earlier this year. So we're starting to get the data in from an industry perspective. We're able to take this SIF data, dissect it, evolve, and adapt and move this forward, right? So talking about SIF, implementing the SIF model, high energy within your organizations. And then I wanted to shift and ask the group. I mean, does everyone know what this is? We were talking about SIF, and now let's talk about flavors of the month, right? You have a Dairy Queen ice cream cone here, right? I like to talk about flavors of the month within the utility world because there's a lot of them. And if you've been around for, say, the last 15 years, it seems like annually the utility industry has a new flavor of the month. So years ago, it was SIF, and then it turned into high energy, then it turned into the energy wheel, and now we're talking about capacity and HECA and you name it. Severe injury rate. But some of the flavors of the month I've seen organizations implement, and they waste a lot of time doing this. And I'm not telling you, I mean, it says don't waste your time, but I can tell you, you need to focus efforts and energy on items outside of this list. So I've seen flavors of the month company. They create 12 months of safety themed emails. So getting the message to the field, yeah, foreman, general foreman, they probably have laptops or they have iPads. They get so many emails a day, and they're supposed to be supervising crews in the field, but they're spending time checking emails. And then all of a sudden, oh, it's safety flavor of the month email. Those don't really work. Slogan campaigns. Who's seen it? Safety first, or safety is our priority. Everybody has them. Does that mean you're safe? No, not always. Like I said, safety is a result of culture. Stop work authority. That was a big flavor of the month, say 6, 7, 8 years ago. Stop work authority. And I went to meetings and you talk to companies and you would talk about, hey, what's your improvement plan for this year? Well, our focused initiative is we're implementing the stop work authority. We gave everybody these cards, they have them in their wallet. If they feel unsafe, they can pull out this card and say, hey, I'm stopping work. Well, that's Bob the Builder land. That's not how work actually happens in the field. And then the stop work authority turned into, say, a stop work obligation, right? Well, everybody has the stop work authority. And now the flavor of the month is, hey, we have a new workforce out there. Hey, this new workforce, they grew up playing video games. Let's use the word pause work authority because when they were playing video games as a kid growing up, they had the pause button. So that means we're going to pause the game and talk about safety. So yes, that's great. It's an obligation. It's a job responsibility. But I mean, that's a big flavor of the month. Another one, my favorite when I review incident reports, root cause, complacency. Really? Is it complacency that caused the incident? No. What was the root cause from an organizational perspective that led to that crew, that employee being complacent in that moment, right? It's a program breakdown, but complacency is a flavor of the month and it's a cop out. So what does work? engagement, 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 engagement. And I use the example of storm work, and storm work is usually successful because you have engagement. You have engagement from safety, you have engagement from the office, you have leadership engagement. And that means face time, that means resources, and that means appropriate training. Getting back into the data. So I've showed several slides, and I've liked to use the phrase throughout the years that data will talk to you if you're willing to listen to it. So I'm a safety nerd. I admit that I do have a record of printing out slides of charts and graphs and taping them to my office wall and just looking at the data. Just look at the data. What is this data trying to tell me? How do we make a data-driven decision? I mean, these are facts. I mean, this is tracked. Let's analyze it. Let's make that data-driven decision. Let's let the data talk to us. So various data. I mean, I can show you data for years, and we're doing really cool things with automation now with, say, Power BI and Domo, which makes it a lot easier, but usually data tells a story. So when we first started tracking SIF data back in 2020, I mean, the top right graph, I could see correlations between SIF events and medical treatment events. Usually when you had medical treatment events tick up 1 month, the following month, the minor injuries, so say your bee stings, poison ivy, low-hanging fruit type recordables, the very next month, you see an uptick in SIF type events. Why is that? I don't know. There's theories, but if you think about it from an organizational perspective, well, you're having all these minor injuries. They are going on your record. They're turning into recordables. Let's manage them. Let's spend our time and energy and effort on those minor injuries. But in the background, you're not focusing on that high energy, and you see the SIF type events ticking up. You can also see this from a leading perspective when you start diving into your various categories, subcategories. You can probably tie those to lagging indicators. And then you can also see, I showed a previous slide where you talk about the increase in numbers, observations, et cetera. And if you're having meaningful conversations, you see coaching opportunities, lessons learned, those tick up, but then you also see the injuries drop on the backside. So making data-driven decisions. So we've discussed boots on the ground, incident management, so establishing that reporting culture, and getting into some best practices. So how do we remove field barriers? How do we remove field barriers? How do you all share information to the field? That's always been a struggle, and it's going to continue to be a struggle. There's just too much information out there. So yeah, we provide crews with laptops, tablets, cell phones. We send them emails. They're just mundane to information. I mean, they're overloaded with work the way it is. They need to be supervising crews, but now they're tied up on a Teams meeting. They're stuck in their job site trailer. They're getting this information, and now it's their responsibility to disseminate it to their crew. So how do you get that information to the field? I can tell you, emails don't work. Emails don't work. I mean, we get too many emails a day. I believe email is going to be dead sooner than later with, say, Microsoft Teams and various other platforms out there. Like I mentioned, everybody's multitasking. So how do you get the information to the field? You can get it to leadership, you can get it to management, but how does that foreman, how does that operator, how do they get that information? How do they digest it? How do they retain it? So with that multitasking, I mean, you have everybody on conference calls, virtual meetings. And it's just too much information. Communication. So getting that message to the field. it's got to be purposeful. It's got to be clear, concise, and compelling. So is it just another check the box, get this out so it can be done, or is it compelling? Then are we providing the appropriate tools and resources to be able to communicate effectively? So do we have the right tools in place in the field? So is that a software system? Is that an internally developed app? Is that a Dropbox where you can download various safety procedures or tailgate meetings or anything that relates to safety? Do we have the right tools to succeed in the field? Some of the best practices I've seen out there: how to remove field barriers, online access. Yes, we work in the utility industry. Yes, we work at remote areas where we always don't have the best cell service, but at some point you're going to have Wi-Fi. You're going to have Wi-Fi at the hotel. You're going to be able to stop at McDonald's and take care of their public Wi-Fi. The big thing is online access. And if you have online access, so say a Dropbox, box.com folder, you have your own platform where you can drag and drop files that are available. But I always encourage you guys in the field, you have an iPad, you have an iPhone, download this PDF to your Apple library. So you don't have to have web access. You don't have to have cell service. It's already downloaded on your device. So it's a quick reference tool. Then you have to have boots on the ground sharing that message. That's most importantly. You got to get employee engagement. You have to have leadership, supervision, safety professionals out in the field sharing the message from the organization. Another big one I've seen work, QR codes. And now I've seen companies using RFID tags. So with QR codes, one of the best practices, equipment, tools, you can put QR codes on them. You can pull up these QR codes, see operator manuals, see company policies on a specific piece of equipment. Also, I've seen that with RFID tags where it's a Dropbox folder. It has all those documents. Another thing you can do with QR codes, some companies produce training videos internally. So you can host those videos on YouTube for free and use a QR code. So if you're performing, say, drilled excavations and you need to make sure your crew watches the video, they can use that QR code, pull up YouTube, watch the safety training video, talk about it. Text messaging. I'm a fan of text messaging. That's a simple method to get safety messages out there. If you're a part of the ET&D partnership with OSHA, they send out a quarterly text message with their quarterly refresher training. I get the emails, but that email it gets buried in my inbox. And so when I see that text message, that tells me log onto the website, get that quarterly refresher. And then a lot of companies now, we use Microsoft Teams. I'm a big fan of Teams. I can see it working in the field. You have your different channels, you have your different teams. You can have your safety tab in there. You can drop all your safety documents. You can communicate just like texting or instant messenger. So you got to remove field barriers. Whatever fits your organization, that's great. But as I mentioned earlier, some of the things I've seen not work, and here are some best practices of sharing information to the boots on the ground. So lastly, I'm going to talk quickly over the focus on planning, how to be proactive, and then I'm going to pull all this together from a program perspective. So planning, we have data on this as well. 65% of incidents were a result of improper planning. So our industry experience, when we started dissecting lagging indicators, we could correlate 65% of incidents were a result of improper planning. Being in the utility industry, this was planning. So when you'd go out and review THAs, when you'd go out and review job briefings, there were no 7 steps. There was not proper planning. It was dig a hole, set a pole, string wire. That was the plan. Dig a hole, set a pole, string wire. Well, I can tell you there's more than 7 steps in drilling a hole, and I can tell you there's substantially more than 7 steps in stringing wire. Who else has heard? Drill a hole, set a pole, hang a pipe, make it hot. That's our work plan, right? No. There's more planning that goes into each one of those. So focus on planning. So contractors, they've gotten very good at planning. So have utilities. Just from the conceptual stage to engineering to actually getting to the vision or the pre-bid meetings of, say, large complex projects, we've gotten better. But safety always starts at the forefront. I mean, safety actually starts with design when you're in the engineering phase or when you're planning for the project in the conceptual phase. But planning for safety of the workers, in addition to that design safety, it's got to start before mobilization. As I mentioned, some contractors have gotten very good. I mean, historically, you wouldn't see contractors out there making right-of-way safety plans for every access road or every temporary construction entrance or every right-of-way, or you wouldn't see contractors creating site logistic plans for, say, substations that have existed for 60 years, but they're actually planning their scope of work or their material storage areas. Demolition plans. I mean, years ago, you would see contractors just chop the legs on a lattice tower and push a tower over, and it was an uncontrolled load. Was that very safe? Well, maybe if you're in the middle of a cornfield and you don't have anybody on the ground or anybody in the couple 100-yard area, but now we put some planning in place. I mean, we do controlled lowering. We piece it down section by section. And then pulling all this together into a systematic approach. So at SMG, we like to use a contractor qualification and contractor management software program. And this program that we employ not only internally for our associates, but we utilize it a lot for several clients. So this software program, when I'm talking about getting away from pen and paper or qualifying your contractor through, say, a historical contractor system that doesn't allow you to track leading and lagging indicators or visualize data at real time, we utilize this software system where you can qualify companies. You can also train them. So onboard them with orientation. So your learning management piece. You can collect information. So collecting information up front from, say, a company perspective or training requirements or credentials to be able to perform work. You're also able to collect, say, those leading indicators. So say observations. And then take all that information, pull it together in a systematic approach, and then be able to analyze it. So where are leading and lagging indicators occurring? How does this correlate? What information can we take and communicate, right? And then ultimately, how does this allow us to improve? How do we get better? It's all about that continuous improvement. If you don't have that improvement piece, then your program's not going to be able to sustain. So it's a consistent life cycle. So qualify, train, collect, analyze, communicate, start back over, improve. So this is going to be blurry on your side. I mean, when you print this out on a plotter printer, it's about 10 feet tall by 8 feet wide. But I pieced together every element of a contractor safety management program. And it's very large, it's very detailed, it's very complex. But the 5 pieces I mentioned here today, those are core elements. All this other stuff goes into it, but you should still be able to take these elements that we talked about today back to your organization and at least implement, say, one proactive measure. So pulling all this information together, like I mentioned, we utilize this software piece internally. It gives you data at real time. You're able to make those data-driven decisions at that real time versus waiting for the next quarter and say, hey, this past quarter we had 10 recordables, 5 of those were hand injuries. What are we going to do about it? But being able to make those data-driven decisions, evolving, having the right software, right tools in place, it's going to get you ahead of the game. You're going to be able to utilize those leading and lagging indicators to prevent incidents from occurring and be able to predict safety for performance for not only your company, but your organization, your job sites, your projects. All right, Hannah, I believe that's it. I do want to thank everyone for sitting through that presentation. Honestly, I believe I could talk 4 hours on this, if not longer. I felt like I ran through that very quickly, but hopefully you learned with me. This was a great reminder of, say, where we were as an industry to where we're going and how we can get there. But I believe this portion, Hannah's going to open it up to questions. Hannah, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Jordan. We do have a question in the chat. Greg Rodriguez is asking about bringing in new employees, but what do we do to make it stick? And what kind of engagement did we continue in the field to maintain a focus on safety? Can you speak on that?
Absolutely. And that's a great question, Greg. And I meant to mention it one of the slides. So one of the challenges throughout the industry is that growth. I mean, substantial growth. I can't remember what utility it was, but I saw the email this morning. I mean, they're committed to 80 billion in transmission projects by 2030. 80 billion, one utility. When you think about the labor that goes behind that, that's going to be a new workforce. So, I mean, 15 years ago, when I started on the safety side of the utility industry, I saw individuals in their 60s and above performing work. And then I saw those individuals that now are superintendents, general foremen, maybe vice presidents. They were starting out in the trade. So you had a large age gap. And then for years, you didn't have that increasing age gap. But now we're seeing with the substantial growth that the majority of incidents within the industry are with individuals with less than 1 year of experience or employees that have less than 1 year of experience with the company they work for. So theories on that: substantial growth. You have a lot of new employees. Also with that, you have employees that rise the rank, I believe, too quickly. When I started in utilities 20 years ago, you had to be through a 4-year apprenticeship before you became a journeyman lineman. Now I see companies that promote within 2 years and you're a foreman. Not only first step apprentice, but you've advanced to journeyman to now foreman and you're leading crews. I think that's a problem. I don't know how to fix it, but I see that being around for a while. Then I also see the transient workforce side. So employees jumping from contractor to contractor, chasing per diem money, or going on storm work, or looking for that job closer to home. So you have employees shifting from one company to the next. And when they go from one company to the next, they don't have they don't have proper onboarding with that new company. We have a lot of companies out there that look as this he's a journeyman, being union, non-union. He carries a card, he's fine. Let's run him through the paperwork. He can watch a couple hours worth of videos in the Connex box and he can go to work. Well, that's not realistic. That's not proper onboarding. It's ultimately the employer's responsibility to perform that onboarding to make sure they have all the training necessary. I mean, it's the employer's responsibility to train, right? So some successful programs I've seen out there, which you're going to see this for a long time, and we need to get better as a whole. New mentorship programs. So it's a slang term, green hard hat. So you're a new employee with the company, you wear a different color hard hat for a substantial period. You're wearing this new hard hat, this different color, and you're always paired up. So you have a buddy system. I mean, you're a new employee. And when I talk about substantial time period, I'm not talking about the first week. I'm talking about, I've seen companies, they say 90 days. 90 days, you're going to be a green hard hat. You're going to work with this journeyman side by side for 90 days before you get your white hard hat. Or I've seen other companies, they say 1,000 hours. So you're going to be a newbie. You're going to have that green hard hat for 1,000 hours until we're comfortable with you performing everyday tasks like everyone else. So I think going back to your question, you got to have proper onboarding. So along with that is dedicated training. So you can't perform all the training on the first day of work. So yes, you have to verify they have appropriate training for, say, that first week of work, but during that onboarding process, you have to have those new employees with a training matrix. So here's what we're going to achieve over the next 2 weeks. Here's what we need to achieve the first month. You have to have this training by the first 90 days. Within the first 6 months, you have to have this training. These are our goals by year 1. So onboarding's, that's ongoing. That's not first week. That's not first day. Also, I've seen success, mentorship programs. So I'm not saying everybody go out and buy green hard hats. You can use whatever colored hard hats you want within your organization, but there needs to be an identifier for those new employees. So you can have a vest with a name on the back or something like that. I've seen armbands. I've seen the different colored hard hats, but I think there needs to be a focus on those newer employees. So it goes back to the company. So it is ultimately the employer, the company's responsibility. And then it needs to get down to site supervision and pairing new employees up. I see another question in the chat. It says, what is SIF? So SIF is serious injuries and or fatalities, SIF. What else do you have, Hannah?
I think that got answered by a few folks, and I know you spoke on that during the presentation. But we do have a response in that chain of dealing with multiple personalities and employees from different contractor cultures. Is there a systematic approach to engaging in safety conversations? If yes, can you share information?
All right, let me back up to that here in a second. I was reading Greg's comment in the chat. So Greg says, initially the employee bought in, but what did we do to make it stick? What kind of engagement did we continue with the field to maintain a focus on safety? That's a great question. That's ongoing. I always use the phrase, you got to get out there and continually beat that drum. Especially, man, I mean, I have a staff of 60 safety professionals. So yes, we have safety professionals that go out day after day and they get tired of talking about that job briefing or that THA. I mean, it seems, I mean, it's repetitive. You get tired of talking about it day in, day out. But I tell them, you got to beat that drum. So with safety, making it stick. So you got to make it stick, but you got to keep up with those conversations. So that goes back to FaceTime, employee engagement. You probably need to implement recognition programs internally. So how do you promote safety? I like organizations that have their marketing teams work with safety. So safety is marketing from a business side. I mean, you can promote that to clients, but you also have that internal piece where you have to market safety all the way down to the front line. And as I've mentioned multiple times, safety is a reflection of culture or a result of culture. So what is your culture? How do you use marketing? How do you leverage on marketing to share that? And it's continual. It's not, hey, we're going to implement all these things by Friday and everything's going to be great. It's constantly chasing that next best thing, or keeping that information relevant to where it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, then figuring out how to make it stick. And then Hannah, you were asking a question, and
Yeah, last question we have here in the chat is when you're dealing with multiple personalities and employees from different contractor cultures, is there a systematic approach to engaging in safety conversations? If yes, can you share that information?
yeah, let me think about that for a second. So I've definitely been on the end of this one. I don't know about if systematic is the right word, but yes, there is an approach. I always recommend leadership training for safety professionals out there. Um, so, I mean, a safety professional on a job site, they are a leader. Some organizations don't view them as leaders, but you step on a job site as a safety professional, you're most certainly a leader. So everybody's watching. You have to set the example out there. And throughout leadership trainings, it teaches you how to work with different personalities. So how do you work with the stubborn foreman from Louisiana, to how you communicate to the laid back Hoosier, or how do you talk to the high strung professional from, say, the Northeast? But it's all on that approach. And if you take that coaching approach, and you got to be personable with everybody you interact with, and you got to build those relationships. And one of the, I guess, tools or things that I've promoted throughout the years is, when you're new visiting. I mean, it's introducing yourself, why you're there. Hey, I'm here to assist you. What can I do? Um, Talking about, hey, this job site looks good. List off some positive things. So your approach, having that, say, welcoming, warming conversation first before, oh, by the way, your guy over there didn't have his vest on. He nearly got hit by a car. No, that's not how to approach something, right? You're out there not to be a cop, but you're out there to be a coach, build those relationships. You've got to learn how to deal with all personality types. And I'd say from a systematic approach, that goes back to, say, leadership development, training, those soft skills that you can educate on. It's more of, say, a classroom seminar type approach that develops those skills that correlate from, say, office or job trailer or truck to having those meaningful conversations in the field. I did see somebody's hand go up. I don't know if it's still up, but any other questions out there?
I have one that you touched on a little while ago. To me, it's a huge problem we're facing every day out here in the contract world is exactly what you hit on. We're promoting these guys in such a rapid pace that, I mean, it's a battle. It's a battle trying to keep these guys in track, and trying to coach them and teach them and mentor them, because if we're not doing it, then the next company is going to promote them. I mean, or they may just jump ships and go promoted, and the next thing you know, we have a serious incident that happened on that side because they promoted someone up that really is not ready. But that's a battle, and I don't know how you curb that battle and how you slow that battle down, because it's not just within our company, it's across the industry that
It's
it's
across
happening
the
so
industry.
fast.
You're
Yes,
absolutely right. And
it's scary. I mean, it is a scary it's a scary fight that we face every single day.
I agree. I mean, it scares me as well. I mean, I remember back in the day where when we had construction managers, construction executives saying, when it gets to 2015, it's going to get crazy. Well, 2015 isn't even a slice of pie to the work we're performing nowadays in 2026. And it's just going to get worse. I mean, 2028, it's going to triple. And I'm seeing forecast out to 2040. And then with that too, I mean, you have the newer workforce, you have the lack of experience with the workforce, but you're also getting language barriers now. I mean, language barriers existed in certain trades, but I mean, now you're seeing it across the board. So you have inexperienced employees, new employees with companies, employees speaking multiple languages, and you're going to see that for probably the next 20 years. Any other questions out there? And I know I ran over. I promise you, Hannah and I practiced this morning, and I ran through it just like that. But I apologize that I've ran 20 minutes over.
So this is
Jordan,
John. I'm sorry.
yeah.
Who's talking? John? Okay, go ahead,
Yes,
John.
yes. So every Monday we have a safety meeting on Teams, and as safety manager for years, I struggle with day-to-day topics. I mean, I look at some of the different talking points, and I have AI that help me out with some of the stuff, in real life. But how do you keep the guys focused and engaged, and it's not just the same old over and over again?
Topic wise,
Yes.
well, I'm a big believer of AI. So if you have AI internally and you're sharing your own data and own documents with AI, it's very handy. So if you have a system to collect, track, analyze leading and lagging indicators, you can drop that all into an AI database. And then historically, you can also take all the topics or all the material that you've discussed in the past and take that same information and dump it into AI and then give it some prompts and say, hey, for the next 12 weeks, I want to know what leading indicators, what lagging indicators that we need to focus on based on our trending and analysis. And then this can't be repetitive of a previous topic. It's going to give you all kinds of information. And I'm not saying that AI is going to replace this one day, but I do believe AI will replace people that don't utilize AI. So I would leverage it. Anything else from the group? I do want to give a
Jordan.
shout out to, say, Justin Bywater and Monica Moore. Worked with those two for 15 years at least now. So good to see you on here. Thanks for the support. Any
Thanks,
other
Jordan.
questions before I close it out? Yeah, Justin, go ahead.
No, I appreciate the insight. Well, this is a very, very good meeting. Very good topics to be presented. That's something that we're kind of moving towards a lot of these areas. So it's refreshing to see where we are and then what you guys are presenting. So definitely, thank you.
Hey, Jordan, if you don't mind, before we close out, if you could pull that last slide up with the QR code for the next webinar. So just a reminder while we're getting that pulled up, there will be an email that will be sent to all the registrants with a recast of the webinar. And we're also going to have some helpful resources available on that same webpage. So be on the lookout for that by the end of the week. And then we also want to invite you to register for our next webinar. So May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we are going to be collaborating with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention of Indiana to present Safety Beyond the Physical, Mental Health in Construction. That is on Wednesday, May 20th at 11 a.m. Eastern. So in construction, there's a lot of high risk industries and for suicide, and one of those is construction. So that's why part of the reason that we're hosting this, and it's something something that mental health is something that SMG values deeply as well. So we want to be part of an important conversation and discuss, how we recognize, when someone is having an issue in the workplace, and how we support them, and how we can connect them to the resources they need. So feel free to scan that QR code on the screen, and that will take you to the registration page. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you next month.
All right, appreciate it, Hannah. Yeah, thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.